welcome to Studio 10. I'm Chris Carpenter. As part of the legendary pop group The Backstreet Boys, Brian Littrell has sold more than 75 million records worldwide, with such hits as Long As You Love Me, All I Have to Give, and I Want It That Way. The Backstreet Boys have amassed legions of adoring fans around the world. But now Brian is singing a new song. His new album is called Welcome Home, a collection of straight-ahead Christian pop songs. Brian, welcome to Studio 10.
Chris, how you doing,
Thanks
man?
for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
In preparing for this interview, I saw the 75 million sold figure, and I thought that is a really large figure. So I did a little research. You have the 9th rated album of all time for all-time sales with Millennium. And also number 19, coming right in ahead of Abbey Road by the Beatles, is the first Backstreet Boys album. All of that to say, huge sales, huge success. Why a Christian album?
Well, I have to say, why not?
Good answer.
Why not? I grew up singing in church. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church in Lexington, Kentucky, singing as a 4 or 5-year-old little boy in church. And my faith has always been my stronghold in my life. I had an opportunity just before I graduated high school to attend Cincinnati Bible College and study youth ministry. I had a 4-year vocal scholarship to attend. And I thought that's what God had planned for my life. But it was April of '93. The Backstreet Boys just celebrated 13 years that I left for Florida to travel another path that God had laid in my lap. So I'm just very fortunate and lucky. So now coming back home, Welcome Home is a special part of my life because it's truly a homecoming of faith, of doing something that I always knew that God would give me the opportunity to do. And I'm lucky. So.
I find that the timing of this album very interesting in that the Backstreet Boys are still together, you're still happening, you're recording, touring, whatever, and most artists would kind of wait till that kind of faded out and faded down in a way before they went into perhaps a gospel career. What makes this the right time to release such a record?
Well, I get asked that quite often is, why now, or, and my answer is it really has nothing to do with my decision making. It has everything to do with God's timing. The project came together a lot faster than anticipated. I spent quite a bit of time with this record, but the record was supposed to come out the end of last year. And with the success of the Never Gone CD from the Backstreet Boys release in 2005, it was just hard for me to promote something and have face time to talk about who I am as a person and how my faith has been my stronghold. And that's why, it's now, and like I said, God has a way with working out my schedule.
He sure does. He sure does. This might seem like an odd question, but do you see the Backstreet Boys as sort of a stepping stone into this phase of your career?
I do. My mom shared that story with me many years ago. She said that she shared that very phrase with me. She said, "You don't realize this now, Brian, but the Backstreet Boys are mere stepping stones where you will go in life." And I didn't understand the magnitude of that statement then. As a 31-year-old father and husband now, I know that God has always had His provision in my life and had a purpose for me to stand on the many stages that I've been able to stand on. So.
Well, you certainly have a much larger platform to stand on today as a Christian artist as you would have, say, 10 years ago, 13 years ago.
I do. That's God's grace.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We hear so much today about a lot of Christian artists are trying to cross over into the secular market. You seem to be doing things in reverse. You've been a big-time secular artist. Now you're crossing over into the Christian market. Are you afraid of being labeled as a Christian artist from this point forward?
I'm not. I'm not at all. A lot of people that I've dealt with, even on the secular radio side, in interviews that I've done, people ask me, "Are you afraid to be labeled, for this song particularly, to be labeled as a Christian song?" And I said, I'm not worried about the label because that's a risk that God has laid on my heart to take and to stand for my faith. So I welcome it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's dig into the album a little bit. It's called Welcome Home.
Yes.
It's pretty much a straight-ahead pop record. There's some upbeat kind of dance numbers on it. There are some wonderful ballads on the record. There's even a tinge of some Southern influences. At least I hear them
A little bit.
on there. The title track is called Welcome Home You.
Yes.
And if you don't mind, I'd just like to read a couple of lyrics here from that song. You sang it this morning on the 700 Club.
Yes.
Here are the lyrics. In my head rang the words that my father said. You're never far, I will be where you are. And when you come to me, I will open my arms. Tell me the significance of that song. I think you were a co-writer on this, too.
Yes, I wrote about 92% of that song.
What's the significance of this song?
This song truly talks about where I'm at in my life today. And it's a personal touch of all of the things that I've been through in my career as a Backstreet Boy, into being a husband and being a father, and the things that when life kind of catches up to you. I was in Vienna, Austria when I wrote this song on tour with the Backstreet Boys. And the first verse talks about, you're reading the pre-chorus actually, talking about, I will be where you are. When you come to me, I will open my arms. The first verse talks about my relationship growing up with my father and the things that he shared with me. And traveling afar, I would never really be far from his love and his care. The second verse talks about my son and how he's affected my life and the things that he will go through in his life. And as a father, I want to be there for him as a friend and be supportive. The bridge talks about my heavenly Father, because I'm waiting for that day just to feel your warm embrace. I'm referencing my God that I serve. And there will come a day where we will all meet our Maker. And I know that God will welcome me home, because I'm going to be excited to see Him.
So this is very much an autobiographical song that
it
you've
is.
written. You've taken all phases of your life.
Good short answer.
A good short answer.
It's autobiographical.
We were talking about before we came on. Another song, one of your favorites. Of course, they're all favorites on the album, all 11 tracks. But another one is called Angels and Heroes, and that's written by a friend of yours, Billy Mann. Tell me about that song.
Angels and Heroes is very special to me because it talks about the things that we don't always talk about in the world. The lyrics are, we are the poets, we are the dreamers, we are the soldiers, we are the screamers. And then it makes reference to God, but you help the fallen to rise again. We are the lovers, we are the cynics, we're the hours, we are the minutes. We are the makeup of what this world is. And how we encounter one another. Angels and heroes, the lyrics talk about, we don't need wings to be angels. And sometimes we forget how we affect people's lives just in the small encountering, whether it's in the restroom or it's at the airport or it's at the lobby of a hotel. Sometimes people might see, the only God there is in a glance or a gesture or a hello. And that's what Angels and Heroes is about.
Is it just me, or the cadence kind of, it was almost like you were preaching on that song to me. You were just listing out all of the different,
a little bit.
The ones you just recited there. I'm not going to try to recite them all.
It's very, I call it Paul Simon-esque.
Yeah,
it's because of the talking and the, it has kind of the older relation to kind of some of the Paul Simon early years.
Sure. Gone Without Goodbye. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of 9/11. This is a song that takes that issue and deals directly with it. It's powerful. It's an incredibly powerful song. It brought tears to my eyes, and that takes a lot to do that for me. So tell us about that song.
Gone Without Goodbye is very, not to scare anybody, it's just tough. It's tough to listen to.
Sure.
For me, when I first heard that song, it's one of those songs that you either want to listen to 100 times more, or you want to kind of stay away from it for a little while. It's one of the most visual songs I think that I've ever been able to sing, because it does tell a story of 9/11, and it has a close, special part in my life because we were in Boston. My wife and I were in Boston the morning of 9/11.
I'm from Boston.
Really?
Yeah, not that matters in the context of the interview.
Beautiful city. We were doing the Fleet Center 5 nights in a row there with the Black and Blue tour. And my wife was supposed to be on the first American Airlines flight going to California that morning. And,
what changed that day?
She had this overwhelming feeling that came over her, and she said, I think I need to stay. Wow. And this was like 24 hours out. And normally I would try to justify, well, you have to go back to L.A. and my wife is an actor, and she was heavily into TV shows and movies and things like that, and had an aspiring career that she'd been working her whole life for.
Right.
And she had decided, had this feeling like, I think I need to stay. And it's only by the grace of God that, I would not have my wife. I wouldn't have my beautiful son, and I'm just blessed. But that song, it talks about what we see on everyday news. We can't really get away from negativity in our world. And it references 9/11.
Sure does.
It references, the second verse talks about a drive-by shooting. I translate it as a drive-by shooting. And as a parent, those things are hard to take nowadays, looking at the news and seeing people that have been affected in so many different ways.
Switching gears a little bit here. You've been in Backstreet Boys for 13 years now. A Christian all 13 of those years. Obviously, there have probably been some incredible, unbelievable pressures and burdens placed upon you over that time. I think of a Rolling Stone article comes to mind that you boycotted. But how do you do it? I mean, just to get through the day with all those pressures and demands coming down upon you, how do you stand strong as a Christian?
I think it's only my relationship with God and being accountable to Him. I'm not accountable to anybody but Him. And I think He's always in my heart. He's always in my mind. Because in the entertainment world, you make decisions today that affect you 10 years from now.
Sure.
And that was always a pressure. It's a huge pressure to make the right business decision, record the right song, do the right tour, and make the right decisions. It gets overwhelming sometimes. But I think my faith being, in my relationship, it comes down to a relationship with my God that I serve. And He's always had His hands out for me. He's always patted me on the back. He's always helped push me in the right direction.
Sure.
And it's truly a testament of faith. So.
Now you are someone who has certainly had a great deal of had a great deal of adversity in your life. I mean, the Backstreet Boys just didn't happen, and you are who you are today because you grew up with a congenital heart defect, correct? And subsequently had heart surgery.
Yes.
In 1998, is that
May
right?
May 8th of 1998.
Yes. How has that health issue helped shape who you are today?
Well, I think a lot of times we take for granted our health. We take for granted our family. We take for granted our jobs and our relationships that we have with people. And I think having heart surgery has always brought me closer to God. Again, I keep referencing faith, but it's
important.
Truly,
it's a key in your life. It's a key in my life. So.
It's really my story. God has always used not necessarily small events, but big events like this in particular, heart surgery at 23 years old. When you think everything from the outside is perfect. And
you're footloose and fancy free, you get the world by the tail.
Yeah, as a 23-year-old young man, that's what I thought. And God uses that as an example of, you know what, let me show you where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And I'm truly so grateful that these events have happened in my life. They've brought me closer to my family and kept me closer to my family and also to my faith.
And by the way, at 31, you're not exactly an old man. just so we get that. 23, you're a young man. 31, we'll just say you're a man.
It's funny, you mentioned adversity and things, when you asked the question.
Sure.
I wrote a song called We Lift You Up that's on
Good
Welcome
song.
Home. And it's the more traditional gospel part of my record. I call that traditional gospel with the choirs and the harmonies and things.
Right.
That
Maybe
I
that's
grew
why
up.
I was getting at with the southern tinge.
Well, it's a little bit.
Gospel,
It's a little bit of southern
yeah.
gospel because that was an influence growing
Sure.
up. But I wrote a verse. The first verse of that talks about when I think of all the things that God has done for me and how my faith has always conquered adversity. When you mention adversity, I think about those things because lyrically God gives me those words to address questions, to address the situation in life.
I think it's safe to say that you're probably a person that believes everything happens for a reason.
I do.
In your life, and you've certainly had some, as you mentioned, some big milestone events for yourself. Do you think that helped you handle success a little better maybe than another person?
I think so. I attribute nothing but strong family values. My mom and dad are still married at 35 years, and
wow, that's great.
that's hard to come by in
It
today's
is.
society. And the stability that I had as a young man growing up, and the strength that I found in the church and the youth groups and the music ministers and the pastors and the relationships that I had truly molded me into who I am today.
Sure. Final question for you. Years from now, you're looking back on your career and your life. What would you like people to remember as the legacy of Brian Littrell?
I would
That's
want them.
Wide open question. Go for it.
It's a simple answer. I would want them to respect me as a man of faith, but I'm also a husband and a father and a brother and a grandson and an uncle. I'm just normal like everybody else, but a man of faith and a loving and honest father and husband. That's who I want to be.
Great. Brian, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Chris.
it. If you'd like to purchase Brian's new album, Welcome Home, please visit our online store and type in the keyword Brian Littrell. For more information concerning Brian's upcoming appearances this summer, and he's going out on a tour, he tells me, please visit his website, brianlittrellmusic.com. Also, don't forget Gifted, a new American Idol, Christian American Idol type show that Brian's going to be hosting. That debuts in May. Brian, again, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
man.
being with us today. Take
Thanks.
care.